Yep, here we are. For those of you who know my history with this game, it's probably a surprise that I'm playing it. It's certainly a surprise to me. And for those of you who don't know my past with this game, I guess I'll explain it. Once again, hopefully for the last time. Partly because I feel like it's necessary, and also because I've kind of deleted most of my avenues for talking about this game. For one reason or another, maybe because I got my thoughts out in a way that was too negative, or I didn't like the way that I phrased things, maybe some of my opinions changed, or I just didn't want myself associated with this game anymore, because I've had many thoughts and many emotions regarding this game, perhaps more than any other game in existence. And I don't think that's an exaggeration to say, even though there are plenty of games that I've known for much longer and have played much more than this. This is somehow the game that I have the most distinct memories with from the relatively short span of time that I've known it. Generally, the story goes... I'll start from the very beginning, I guess, with myself as a child. Because as a kid, I played a lot of games on the Super Nintendo and the Nintendo 64, and the collectathons, as I knew them, were certainly my favorite games. They were by far the best of the best to me. The ones I'm referring to, of course, are Super Mario 64, Banjo-Kazooie, Banjo-Tooie, and Donkey Kong 64. Those were the cream of the crop, and it's hard to explain exactly why. I think part of it was I was a kid, I was the youngest of 6 kids, and I never felt like I was in much control or had much freedom. Even though I was allowed to play, I didn't have, like, the strictest childhood parenting, but, you know, I felt a certain longing for more than I had, I guess, still. And collectathons, more than any other game genre, specifically the format that I knew from the 64, they did the trick of making me feel the feelings that I wanted to have, of having all this freedom to explore all this different stuff in these big worlds, and there was more that you could... you had more control in games like that, because in Zelda, you can't even jump in most Zelda games. You have items that you can use, but the mobility is much more limited than something like Mario, where there's all these acrobatics, and I don't know, it felt like the ultimate gaming experience, as stupid as that sounds. Just not only was there a lot of freedom in the way that you could move and how much there was to explore, but also there was a lot of variety to those games. Usually it wasn't just a matter of going somewhere and collecting something, it was also maybe playing some mini-games, maybe doing a memory match, maybe any number of things to just shake up the gameplay, and it felt to me like they were just the best exemplification of what video games are. And I still feel that way for the most part. So I was, of course, heartbroken when those games weren't being made anymore. And Super Mario Sunshine was really the last game of that layout to be made, and then Nintendo moved on to all 3D Mario games just being... Okay, hold on for a moment. A lot of the wine in this game has been replaced with, like, shiny purple liquid, but I think they missed a spot here, because this looks like the old school blood stain that they started with. Anyway. But the, yeah, Mario games were just linear course clear type of games. Rare was bought out by Microsoft. They were pretty much most known for their collectathons, I think. But then the next Banjo game to be released was Nuts and Bolts, and people have their feelings about that one. It's not the same. That's all I can really say about it. So I had lost just about all hope that a game of that nature would ever come out again, until I saw this obscure news article for an independent game being made called A Hat in Time, which was advertised as a collectathon in the style of the N64 era, and I immediately fell in love with it, in large part due to the fact that it was a game in a genre that I wanted to see brought back. A genre that went the way of the dodo, and like, how amazing would it be to resurrect something that was thought to be extinct? Depending on what it is. I don't know if we want dinosaurs back, but you know. So I was very excited about this game, and I think my inflated sense of entitlement came from more than just the genre. It also came from the fact that I was one of the first people to kind of discover the game, relatively speaking, because most people found out about the game after its release. A lot of people found out about the game from the Kickstarter. I knew about it before any of that, so I felt pretty good about myself. And then there was the matter of, this game has a cute little girl protagonist, which, incidentally, I was at the time, and still am, working on a platformer with a cute little girl protagonist, so that felt very much in line with the kind of thing that I would like to see in a game, just seeing more stories about a little kid character in a big world, because that's kind of my interests. Again, that sort of reflects how I felt about games when I was younger. I wanted to be more in control, and yet still feel kind of small in a big world. Also, it's cute. I like cute things. But then there was that, and this game, in addition to being cute and very saturated, was planned to have these dark, spooky themes, which it does. And if you've played One Night at Flumpty's or parts of Riddle School, you know how much I like pairing cute, cartoony, innocent things with dark and kind of edgy things. So that certainly was my style. And then there was also the matter of, at the time that I discovered this game, my favorite game was Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door. Wouldn't you know it, the main director of this game, Jonas Karlev, his favorite game is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, and there's very clear influence of Paper Mario, that one specifically, on this game, from the general aesthetic and the textures and some of the character designs to the existence of badges. I don't think we have any. Yeah, we don't have any. We don't have any badges yet, but they work very similarly to the way that they do in Paper Mario. And then there's some pretty direct references, like to the character Vivian and to the chests that you open with black keys that curse you and things like that. And it's pretty clear from this first world. I'm not making this jump correctly. I know that you're not really supposed to make this jump, but I know that it's doable. I'm doing it anyway. This first area, Mafia City, is very clearly inspired by Super Mario Sunshine, which you might know as one of my favorite games. So, for all intents and purposes, whenever I discovered this game, it really didn't just feel like a game to me. It felt like the game for me. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's definitely what my mind... That's where my mind was at the time, because it felt just too good to be true. Absolutely in line with so many of my interests. It checked all the boxes. And when I played the beta kind of confirmed my suspicions about the game. I loved the beta. Although I recognize now that part of the reason that I liked the beta as much as I did was most likely because everything that I deemed a problem, I just kind of forgave on the assumption that it was going to be fixed later in development. And everything that I loved, I figured was going to remain the same. And I felt a stronger sense of betrayal than I should have when the game didn't turn out the way that I expected when it finally released. It felt like a personal attack somehow when I found out that despite the game being advertised as a collectathon, that advertising was dropped upon the game being released because it was only advertised as a 3D platformer from that point on. Because collecting stuff isn't really the point so much anymore, it's more just go from point A to point B, do the task, you get a thing, and that's it. There is a lot to explore, but most of the things that you can collect don't have that much of a purpose, or they're kind of redundant, and exploring isn't rewarded the same way that I wish it was. Just, I don't know. Like, for example, these pawns, as they are called, these green things that you collect, in a game like Banjo or Donkey Kong, with the bananas and the notes, whenever you collect those, they are gone forever. You just have them collected because the game recognizes you as having collected them, and that's my style of doing things because I like when you permanently can permanently clean out a world of its vittles. Vittles is probably not the right word, but it's the word that I wanted to say. Of its goodies, and it feels like there's a great sense of accomplishment from doing that. But in this game, you unlock levels by collecting pawns and then spending them like you do Starbits and Mario Galaxy, but it just feels kind of pointless because you can go back into a level and collect the same pawns over and over again, and it's just... it feels like grinding more than it feels like a genuine collectathon, but I'm going on a tangent. I suspect that there could be very many tangents that I go on. But anyway, the feelings that I had about this game upon release were very much multiplied by my expectations for it. I don't really know the best way to put it. Just... because there's really no way to adequately express how I felt about this game and why I felt the way I did, because nothing I would say would make it sound justified, and that's because it isn't justified. I had a very strong reaction to this game to the point where I was legitimately depressed for like 2 weeks after it came out, or at least a week and a half. And I don't use that word lightly. Like, I legitimately felt nothing that resembled happiness for at least a week or two after the game came out. And very much the opposite reaction you would expect from a game like this. I sent the developers a lot of emails asking if I could refund the game. I wrote a Steam review that I deleted. I made a video that was 20 minutes long that I deleted. I've gone on rants. And the conclusion that I've eventually come to, like I've said, is that this game was not made for me, even though it felt so much like it was supposed to be. And that face, I don't understand that face. I just didn't give the game its fair chance, basically. That's one of the main two reasons that I'm playing it now for the channel. Reason number one is it gives me a chance to just share my opinions on it, and I know that my opinions are not popular ones by any means. But also, when I first played this game, I played it all in basically one sitting. I formed my thoughts from that. I didn't come back to it. I was very optimistic about the game pre-release and was not optimistic enough about the developer's intentions. And I made assumptions that were not true. And yeah, I'm just in a healthier state of mind now, and I feel like with any realization that I have that I'm in the wrong about something, I want to do more than just say, oh, well, I was wrong. Okay, let's keep going with life. I want to actually properly atone for it, and I feel like the only way to atone for that properly with this game would be to actually give it another go and judge it for what it is and not what I expected it to be. So I hope that's a good enough explanation. Let's do one more level before the end of the video. One more mission. Which one should we do? I don't remember... Oh yeah, I do remember what that one is, actually. Barrel Battle will be a lighter note to end on, because the other act that I know that is unlockable by spending five pawns, I have some issues with that one. It's not bad. It's not great either, I don't know, I'll get into that eventually. And by eventually, I mean probably just in the next video. Anyway. Wall jumping will work. Wall kicks will work. There's more stuff that I could collect. Maybe I'll try to do a little bit of that on the way. Not that Mustache Girl is being harassed very far away. But if there is stuff to collect that forces me to explore, then I might as well attempt to do that, because that's why I play games of this ilk. Maybe I'll get this first, hopefully, if I don't screw it up. Nope, I'm probably going to screw it up. This time limit is kind of tight. Now, I have played this through a few times. I played the beginning of this game a number of times, just trying to get the right recording, because it is so hard to get my thoughts in order while I'm playing this game at the same time, and I'm fumbling over my words right now, so that's an indication of where my brain is at. And they have a stare down. One nitpick that I have with this game is, this is something that was apparently fixed in the DLC. I mean, the Seal the Deal. If you look at the facial animation in the DLC levels, it is a dramatic improvement over what you see here. This works just fine, but I feel like when Hat Kid stuck her tongue out just now in that cutscene, that could have very easily been geometry and not just a flat picture drawn on her face. And the mafia guy with his mouth wide open, that could have also benefited from being geometry as opposed to just a picture on his face that was way too bright to make sense. His tongue was very, very bright. I assume it's because he has the same shader as the eyes, which are supposed to be glow-in-the-dark, kind of, like in cartoons. I don't know. That, and also there's the fact that in cutscenes, when characters are talking, their mouths don't move. I think it's fine as long as their mouths are open, to some extent, but their mouths are sometimes closed as they're talking, and in a 3D game that looks really weird. It looks less weird with sprites. If you're making a sprite game and characters are talking and there's no voice acting, because that's another thing about this game, is it has voice acting. So, when you have voice acting and nothing that resembles lip sync in 3 dimensions, it's just... there's a bit of a disconnect there, I feel.
This lead nowhere. Mafia need to take care of this Mafia style.
And Mafia style is apparently beating up small children like old ladies and just punching. I will punch you to death. That is my attack. As a Mafia. Not a... I don't know what the singular term for someone who works in the Mafia would be. It's probably not a Mafia. I guess, a mobster, but somehow these characters don't seem like mobsters. Also, while I'm on that rant, I mean, not much of a rant, I was just making a comment, but I find it odd how this game has 2 DLC chapters. There's the Seal the Deal one, where you're on a cruise ship doing errands for seals, as I understand it. I've never played it, I probably never will, but I'm just pointing out, like, the main chapters of the game, the main 5 that exist, don't have anything similar to that, and so it makes sense for the DLC case to have a totally different theme. But then the second DLC chapter, I said case, I was thinking of Phoenix Wright. The second one is called the Yakuza Metro, which is based on both Cats and the Yakuza. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but that's basically the Japanese mafia. So they already had a mafia chapter, and then they made another one for an optional bonus case. Case again, I said case. When I think DLC, I always associate it with Phoenix Wright, because I've never played DLC for just about anything else. Anyway, refocusing on the main antagonist here. We're not maybe supposed to know that she's the antagonist yet, but if you read the Steam page or the Kickstarter, you know that she is going to be the main villain. I do love me some junk. That's why my throwaway YouTube channel is called Jonathan's Junk Drawer. I still like that name. I'm not ashamed. Also, I just realized what the weird black lines around the borders of the screen were. It didn't occur to me before, but those were just loading bars. I thought they were weird visual glitches. So yeah, we have an intruder on our ship now, and by intruder, I mean someone that we invited, and we'll save that for next time. Thank you for watching this unexpected foray into past trauma. See you next time.